What were the conventions of doing business in Russia that the case of Berezovsky versus Abramovich brought to the forefront? The candid testimony in the matter of two Russian oligarchs before the London court brings into focus a list of the most important precepts for doing business in the post-Soviet era. The Russian word krysha literally means a roof. The essence of this thesis is that every businessman must have among his relatives or friends influential people in positions of power. According to outside observers, a Russian business ultimately cannot be successful without the krysha, or protection provided by powerful political or criminal contacts. Boris Berezovsky, who had friendly relations with members of Boris Yeltsin's family, was able to provide political support. Berezovsky was able to cut through the waves. He took care of all of the problems. That is why we paid him for it, Abramovich explained. According to Abramovich, he paid Berezovsky for the krysha $80 million in 1996 and $50 million in both 1997 and 1998. The so-called collateral auctions in Russia for the sale of state property into private hands were a pure fiction to get assets into private hands. You prearranged the results of the auction, did you not? Judge Gloucester asked Berezovsky. You entered into a secret conspiracy with one of the participants of the auction and bought out the second one. Berezovsky explained that such were the rules of the game. Competition took part not at the auction, but long before the auction. A businessman can have illegal income, as for instance, Abramovich acknowledged that he had illegal income, and utilizing a scheme of registering companies to various associations of the disabled, Abramovich was able to increase his fortune in the year 2000 alone by $300 million in tax reductions and incentives. Abramovich exploited loopholes in the Russian law by directing Sibneft to facilitate its supplies through trading companies where the majority of the employees were physically handicapped. The companies in turn received tax benefits. Sibneft used various schemes to avoid paying Russian taxes with the use of offshore zones, a practice that was violative of Russian criminal laws. The High Court heard testimony as to the methods the business partners used to shelter their profits from taxation and to send money out of Russia. Abramovich himself implicitly acknowledged that such schemes did exist. It came out during the hearing that Abramovich paid to Berezovsky and Parkatsashvili millions of dollars in cash. In contrast with the United States, in the 1990s, Russian consumers normally did not use bank accounts to make payments because bank payments in Russia were notoriously unreliable and individuals traditionally paid in cash. Demands for payment were for the most part oral requests. Badri could call me up, send an invoice, and ask to bring the money somewhere, or just to bring $50,000 to the club. Berezovsky also called often when he needed money, Abramovich recounted. An employee of Abramovich's company, Marina Goncharova, told the court that in 1995 she went with a bag containing $1 million to the Logo Vaz Club to see Berezovsky. Your Honor, Goncharova complained to the judge, I do not know if you can imagine $1 million, but it is quite heavy. In order to transport to the UK almost $1.5 billion that he allegedly paid for the ORT network and Sibneft, Berezovsky used as an intermediary Sheikh Sultan Khalifa, a member of the royal family that rules Abu Dhabi for 250 years. The lawyers for Abramovich argued that the Arab sheikh received $260 million for serving as the intermediary in the transfer of $1.3 billion to Berezovsky. The trial of Berezovsky case showed that the phrase aluminum wars that was coined in Russia in the years of privatization is not only a metaphorical expression. The Russian tycoon Abramovich acknowledged that people working in that sector were being murdered every 3 days.
Наши щеки постоянно жуть за кофе, я с бананы, жуть за кофе, я с бананы, чунгачан.